Job interview nightmares. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into the absolute chaos of job interviews gone wrong. We conduct interviews to get beyond the resume, to understand how someone thinks, how they handle pressure, and whether they'll fit the team. It's about discovering the real person behind the polished application. But sometimes, instead of revealing their problem-solving skills or work ethic, candidates surprise us in ways we never saw coming. I've got some brilliant guests here who've seen it all from the interviewer's chair. So let's jump straight in. What's the wildest thing you've witnessed? We are about to cover the following. Someone who claimed to speak Spanish, but didn't. A candidate who fooled an interviewer with the wrong language entirely. The person whose husband was more qualified than them. A resume padded with words they couldn't even define. An ethical dilemma answer involving theft, betrayal, and illegal activities.
Okay, so sitting with me today is some person, anonymous, who's been hiring for tech startups since 2010. So, you mentioned that a candidate did something so bizarre that you actually had to pause the interview. I need to hear this. Set the scene for us. What went down?
So this guy was really, really rude to my assistant right before the interview even started. He came into the interview room and my assistant was sitting next to me. I introduced myself, my assistant did the same, and then offered him a drink, tea, coffee, water, whatever. And he put his finger to his lips and went, shh, at her. Then he just grinned at me like we were sharing some kind of joke. I immediately stood up and told him he needed to leave. The interview was terminated and he would never work for me. He looked completely shocked. Then he slammed his fists down on the table and tried to storm out dramatically, but he kept pushing a door that you needed to pull. So my assistant actually laughed and went over to show him how to use a door. I work in finance, and the job he was interviewing for was entry level. The arrogance still shocks me.
Instant karma via a pool door. Beautiful. Next.
So this guy shows up and starts presenting work that I personally designed, just casually claiming it as his own. I let him keep going, asking when he did it, what his process was, which team he worked with. He's sweating bullets at this point. Then I hit him with it. Funny, because I also worked at that company, at that time, on that exact project. I've never seen someone want to disappear so badly. The thing is, in outdoor wear design, it's normal for multiple people to touch one project: silhouette, color, materials, graphics. But this guy claimed he did the color, materials, and graphics. All me, every bit of it. After I called him out, I actually gave him some advice about portfolios. Be specific about what you did, show your process, bring sketches. Hopefully he learned something besides, don't steal your interviewer's work.
Pro tip, don't steal from the person interviewing you. Very small world. Right, next.
So this candidate won't stop talking about all the languages he speaks. Spanish, French, Italian, none of which we even needed for the job. He's bringing it up constantly. Finally, I'm like, all right, which one are you best at? He says Spanish, no hesitation. So I ask him a simple question in Spanish. Basically, how are you doing? Blank stare. Nothing. Didn't understand a word. Turns out he didn't speak Spanish at all. Just put it on his CV and hoped nobody would actually check.
When confidence meets complete fabrication. Right, next up.
Okay, so this one's a bit different because I was actually the candidate in this story. I'm Dutch. It's my mother tongue, listed on my CV. This interviewer sees it and scoffs at me. Do you really speak Dutch? I say yes. He goes, okay, say something in Dutch then. So I ask, do you speak Dutch? He says no. I'm like, then how will you know if I'm actually speaking it? And he says, dead serious, oh, I'll know, trust me. So I said a full sentence in Danish, completely different language. He's nodding along. Yep, that's Dutch all right. I didn't take that job.
Absolute brilliance. Can't work for someone who fakes expertise that badly. Moving on.
So I'm interviewing someone for an IT position. Pretty standard technical role. I asked her a really basic question about virus removal. Like, this is entry-level stuff that anyone in IT should know. Her response? She looks at me and goes, "Oh, I don't know, my husband does that." Just like that. So I told her, "Well then, tell him to apply for the job."
When your husband is more qualified than you for the job you're applying for. Next.
I'm interviewing this fresh grad for a developer role. His CV says he enjoys writing semantic code. Perfect. Exactly what we need. So I ask him conversationally, what does semantic mean in coding? He looks at me, totally straight-faced. I dunno, I just added it to my CV. Just threw in jargon to sound impressive. I explained what it meant, thanked him, and that was it.
Bold strategy. Use words you don't understand. Didn't work out. Right, next story.
Oh God, okay. So we're interviewing for a position, and we ask this standard question, right? Tell us about a time when you had an ethical dilemma. What did you do, and what was the outcome? Pretty straightforward behavioral question. This guy starts telling us this story about how he used to work at a store, and he stole goods from that store, put them in his buddy's car, then called the police so his buddy would get arrested for theft. Then, while his buddy was in jail, he slept with his buddy's girlfriend. And he's telling us all of this like it's a perfectly normal answer to the question. We're all just sat there in complete shock. Then he explains that apparently his buddy had been cheating him on their shared business, their drug business. They were selling together and the buddy wasn't splitting the profits 50-50, so this was his way of handling that ethical dilemma. He genuinely thought this was a good example of him dealing with ethics in the workplace.
When the question is about ethics and your answer is several felonies. Incredible. Who's next?
I had this candidate who, right in the middle of the interview, just stands up. Doesn't say anything, just stands up. Then he pulls his trousers down to his knees to fix his shirt, like to tuck it in properly. And here's the thing. He didn't break eye contact with me the entire time. Just standing there, trousers around his knees, tucking his shirt in, staring directly at me. Then he pulled them back up and sat down like absolutely nothing unusual had just happened. Like this was completely normal interview behavior.
That's a power move nobody asked for. Right, moving on.
So I'm conducting this interview and the candidate shows up with her boyfriend. At first I thought maybe he just drove her here and he'll wait outside, you know? But no. He comes in with her, sits down at the table with us. And then the interview starts and I'm asking questions, standard stuff, and the boyfriend is answering everything. Like every single question. She's just sitting there quietly while her boyfriend does the entire interview on her behalf. I had to actually stop at one point and directly ask her a question, and she just looked at her boyfriend to answer it.
We are not available for this position. Next up.
I've got 2 friends who work in HR, and they've both told me stories about this happening. Applicants showing up with their mum to the interview. And at first, they're both sitting in the waiting area together, which is a bit odd, but you think, well, lots of young people don't drive these days. Maybe she just gave them a lift. But then, when the receptionist greets the candidate and shows them toward the interview room, the mum gets up too. And when they're told the mum can wait in the waiting area, some of these mothers actually insisted on being part of the interview. Or the candidate themselves would ask or insist that their mum be in the room. One particular case, the mum answered all the questions while the candidate just sat there playing on their phone the entire time, fully checked out, scrolling away, while their mother treated it like a parent-teacher conference.
Nothing says hire me like bringing your mum to speak for you. Moving on.
Oh, this is a story from an old professor of mine, but it's too perfect not to share. So his department was looking to hire a new junior assistant professor type position. They'd narrowed it down to 2 highly qualified guys, both fresh out of grad school, both excellent candidates. They knew they were going to hire one or the other. It was just a matter of which. As a final step in the process, they decided to take both of them out to dinner separately. You know, see how they handle themselves in a social setting. So they take the first guy out, and everything's going great. He's cordial throughout the whole thing, seems to get along with everybody, answers questions well, seems perfectly fine. They're all thinking, this is good, this is probably our guy. Then they get to the end of the meal, and this candidate picks up his empty plate and licks the whole thing clean. Like, tongue flat against the surface of the plate, covering every single inch of it until there's nothing left, until it's completely clean. In the middle of a nice restaurant. Then he just sets the plate back down like it was the most normal thing in the world. Everyone's just staring at him in complete shock, and then they awkwardly try to wrap things up and leave. Afterward, they're all laughing about it like, what the hell? What a bizarre and unnecessary way to throw away what was basically a guaranteed job. So then they take the second guy out, and it's almost just a formality at this point. Again, everything's fine. He's polite, seems perfectly qualified, knows the right things to say. Then, at the very end, they ask him if he has any questions for them. Standard closing question. He pauses, thinks for a moment, then goes, "So what is the student-teacher dating policy here?" Afterward, the professors are all sitting around together, and one of them just goes, "Well, looks like we're hiring the plate licker."
When licking plates clean is the better option, you know you've hit rock bottom. Right, next.
Had a candidate arrive to the interview in rollerblades, like roller skates. And he stayed in the rollerblades for the entire interview, just rolling around slightly in his chair. But here's the best part. He used the word blade instead of walk or go for the whole interview. Like, "I'll blade over to your office," or "I can blade there by Monday." I genuinely couldn't tell if I was being pranked or if this was real life.
Committed to the lifestyle, I'll give him that. Moving on.
So when I managed a retail store, it wasn't uncommon for people to bail on job interviews with last-minute notice, or sometimes no notice at all. You kind of get used to it in retail. But there was only ever one person who completely no-showed their interview. Didn't call, didn't text, just never turned up. And then called the following week asking if they got the job. Just rang up like nothing had happened and genuinely wanted to know if we were hiring them.
The audacity is almost impressive. Next up.
I'm managing a retail store and get called to deal with an angry customer. Couple minutes before a scheduled interview. This woman is absolutely berating my employee, calling her this bitch, just going off. I step in, ask her to calm down and stop being disrespectful. She eventually does, we sort it out. I turn to leave and she goes, "Anyway, I'm here for my interview." The same woman, who just abused my staff, now expecting me to interview her like nothing happened. I just said, "Sorry, ma'am, that position's no longer available."
Fastest hiring decision ever made. Brilliant.
I'm watching my junior PM conduct their first interview. Middle-aged woman, 10 years older than them. She starts immediately. "Oh, wow, you're still a baby. Wasn't expecting to be interviewed by my own child." My junior pushes through. Then she says, "I've forgotten more about project management than you've probably experienced in your career." She demands to speak to someone senior. My junior explains this is preliminary screening. Next phase is for senior staff. The woman snaps back. "Honey, I know how to use the tools, and I don't need to justify my experience to you." That's when I joined the call. She tries the fake warmth routine. I cut her off. "We're stopping the interview. I've been listening in. Your conduct is disrespectful and not welcome on my team or in this company. Best of luck." She started to respond. I ended the call mid-sentence.
And that's how it's done. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. You just have to show it the door. Right, that's all we've got time for today. Remember, folks, be kind to everyone you meet, don't lie about skills you don't have, and for heaven's sake, keep your trousers up during interviews. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.